welcome to a first show of the new season of PC Voyage. My name is Diana McLean, and I'm with Rainey Lavalette, Tim Hamlet, and Andy Doty. And tonight we're going to be discussing the newest version of DOS, DOS 6.0. But first of all, Rainey is going to recap the older DOS versions.
Thank you. We figured we'd start tonight, before we got into the new commands in DOS 6, with, as Diana said, a recap of the previous versions of DOS. Where did DOS start? And maybe even before that we should talk about what DOS is, but we're going to start with where DOS came from. DOS 1.0 was the original version of DOS that came with the IBM PC. DOS was designed for the 8088 based computers, and the IBM PC came with one floppy disk drive, which was a single-sided drive. Immediately after DOS 1.0 came out, they found so many bugs that they, within a month or two, came out with DOS 1.1, which the only enhanced feature in that was that it would also allow you to format double-sided disks, thus now doubling the capacity to 320K, a far cry from the 1.4 we're used to now. DOS 2.0 came out, and when the IBM PCXT came out, and that allowed for hard drives, and it also allowed for 360K disks. So now we're getting a little bit more capacity on the same disk. DOS 2.1 followed that and was a standard for quite a while. DOS 2.1 originally came out for the IBM PC Junior, the short-lived computer that IBM came out with. DOS 3.0 came out when IBM introduced the IBM PC-AT. If you can follow the track record here, most everything's coming out alongside IBM. IBM ruled the personal computer business for most of the early versions of DOS. 3.0 also came out with the ability to use 1.2 megabyte diskettes. DOS 3.1 allowed the support of networks, and there was enough bugs in 3.1 that, again, 3.2 followed it very shortly after and allowed you to use 3.5-inch 720K floppies. Not a lot of new features being added here, but still enough to keep everybody upgrading. Another DOS standard became 3.3, and a lot of people are still using 3.3, which came out with the IBM PS2, and the only other feature built into that was the use of 1.44 megabyte floppy diskettes. DOS 4.0 came out, and that was probably the worst version of DOS ever produced. The number of bugs was tremendous, and a lot of people didn't upgrade. 3.3 still remained a very major contributor to the number of DOS systems being sold. The best feature in 4.0 had to be the fact that with the new higher capacity hard drives coming out onto the market, DOS 4.0 allowed you to format your drive to a format greater than 32 megabytes. A lot of people used it for just that feature alone because you were starting to see 40, 80, 100 megabyte hard disk drives coming out at that point. DOS 5 came out April of '92, correct me if I'm wrong guys, but it was April of '92 with a whole slew of new features. Came out with better memory management. You could load DOS high. It had a help system. You could undelete and unerase files. Some utilities that they were starting to bundle with DOS 5 were features that were found in third-party utilities. They started buying some of the utilities from Norton, PC Tools, and other sources. DOS 6 came out earlier this year, and some of the features in DOS 6, which essentially all they've done is fix some of the bugs in DOS 5 and added new features that they purchased from other companies. The new features in DOS 6 included double space, where you could now double the capacity of your disk drive, an optimizer, where you could optimize the files in your system, an antivirus. Virus programs were very common at this point, so you had a lot more people concerned about viruses. They came out with a defragmenter and a new backup utility. Undelete, they enhanced. They came out with the ability to have multiple config and auto-exec files. Microsoft diagnostic program, so you could actually see what the interrupts were and what other programs you had running in memory and where they were running in memory, a nice little diagnostic utility. They also came out with a utility to move memory, to better manage your memory, called MemMaker, and they changed some features in memory management. So as you can see, DOS 6.0 really enhanced DOS, but a lot of the features that they used in DOS 6 were features that they purchased from other companies, not something that they created on their own.
I see. Now, Tim, I'm really curious about double space. I've heard rumors that it screws up the files. I mean, do you need to install it for DOS 6?
Well, double space, like all the other disk compression utilities out there, has its problems. I personally had it installed on my machine at 2 different points and have since removed it.
I see.
Okay, I personally don't recommend it, but if you that desperate for disk space, go out and buy a bigger hard disk. That's my recommendation.
And I think probably everyone here would agree with that.
Okay, but you know, double space, if they can get the bugs worked out of it, will be pretty good. I mean, it can give you a very much expanded, you know, storage capacity on your hard drive, and it has some good features. You can view the information on your hard drive. You can change compression ratios on it, and you know, you can create compressed floppy drives with it, and it does, you know, seem to have some valid points to it, but until they work the bugs out of it, I can't see me or, like I said, recommending anybody else to use it at this point.
What do you think? That they're mostly bugs or incompatibilities with other hardware or software that somebody might have loaded?
I did run into one instance where it conflicted with a Windows. All right, I loaded the double space and I could not run any DOS programs out of Windows. Okay, another thing is that Windows, the swap file that Windows creates, must be kept on the on an uncompressed portion of your disk, otherwise Windows will not run. So if you're running Windows and you plan to run double space, make your swap file temporary or make a permanent file on the uncompressed portion of the disk.
What kind of compression ratios can you get?
Well, that depends on the file. As in file compression utilities such as PKZip and PAC and the other ones, the compressibility of the file depends on the amount of, if you will, free space in the file. Spreadsheets, text files, things like that have a lot of free space to use up, or uses up, and the compression utility will get rid of that space when it compresses. Executable programs such as COMs and .exes don't have much free space in there, so they're not going to compress as much as other files. So when you put the ratio on your double space utility, you can tell it to make your drive sometimes even 3 times as large as your disk says it actually is, but as you compress files onto it, that actual size may change.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Tim. Right now, we're going to pause to have Chip ask our trivia question.
Here are this week's computer trivia questions. Number 1. What new batch file command was introduced with BLUS version 6.0? And number 2. What BLUS 6.0 feature helps to optimize the computer's memory?
Hi, welcome back. I hope you were able to answer the trivia question with no problem, although we know sometimes they are a bit tricky, huh?
Well, that's true, especially for certain people on the staff here.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes. Now, Andy, we were interested about the antivirus. Could you tell us something about that?
Certainly, certainly. As many of you may know, antiviruses are very important programs to run in your system, especially if you get software from other people. If you get disks in the mail or what have you, don't trust them. Run an antivirus program. Basically what an antivirus does is it goes out and on your hard disk or on a floppy, scans the memory, the hard disk, and then all the programs for a signature. And that signature is each virus has a different signature that it uses. Okay, and what an antivirus does is it scans all the contents, every piece of a program, to see if there's that signature in there. If it is, it then looks a little further to make sure that there's actually a virus in the program. All right, the antivirus program that comes with DOS 6 is Central Point Antivirus. So if you purchase PC Tools, you will receive Central Point Antivirus with it. However, DOS 6, as an added bonus, decided to include the Central Point Antivirus. It is the same, pretty much. It does scan, it does detect viruses. Let's just basically see how that's done.
Okay, by the way, how many viruses does antivirus detect?
Antivirus detects approximately 800 viruses. You can print the list using this program, and you can also add viruses either via a disk or via a type-in. You could actually type in the signature. If you've ever seen the signature, it can be very lengthy, and it's a little hard to type in, but you can add them yourself if you wish.
I've also seen it in the stores too, where Central Point is selling an add-on for people who have DOS 6. It's like $10 or $20, where you can actually bring it up to the actual Central Point antivirus utility. So that
it should be said that like viruses today, like human viruses, where there's always a new strain or something new coming out, there's always a new strain coming out on the PC as well.
Well, let's see what's on the computer.
Okay, when you get into the MSAV program, okay, a Microsoft antivirus program that comes with DOS 6, you'll see a couple of easy options. This is in the novice mode, so you can either detect and clean, select new drives. So if you have multiple drives in your system, this is where you would say, I want D drive or A drive or whatever. And you can configure options. The options basically are only if you would want to alter the messages that come back or what have you. For this case, we're just going to select detect, okay? What it now does is it goes out into the RAM of your system, because it is possible for viruses to exist in the RAM as well as on the disk itself. So what it does, it goes out first and looks at the memory, and then it will go out and look at the programs on the hard disk for those programs, or for those viruses, actually. We're now at 93%, and you should see a upper left here. It does show you which program it is scanning. There is a bar graph here that shows the files that are in the current directory. There's 127 here, and it's moving right along. It doesn't take, it's not a lengthy procedure to do, and it's a wise idea to do it. You know, once every week or so.
Does this have all the features of the Central Point?
I believe it is a close to full-fledged version. If there isn't, there's just minor things.
With the exception of maybe the newer signatures?
Correct. This would have the signatures that were shipped at the time of DOS 6. Again, you can upgrade the signatures or add to them as necessary. When you do buy it, it does come up in this novice menu, so it's a fairly simple program to run. You just type in MSAV, click on detect, and at this point in time, it will only detect. It will not attempt to correct any viruses it's found. It just says, hey, I want to see if there's anything on there. If it is, it will give you the option to make repairs.
Does it create the checksums on the disk so that the next time you run antivirus, it will look at those checksums and compare it to the last time it was checked?
Well, what it does is it basically, for those novice people out there, is it looks through the programs, and it does this little math with each program and stores that numerical value. If any part of the program changes, that numerical value will change. Okay, even if it changes so much as 1 byte, it will change those numeric values.
That's pretty interesting. Right now, we have to wrap up and find the answer to the trivia question.
Here are this week's computer trivia answers. Number 1. The command choice, which lets the user make interactive batch files, is used with DOS 6.0. And number 2. MemMaker helps you optimize your computer's memory.
Hi, welcome back to the show. I hope your answer was the right answer. Right now...
Or hopefully Keith put the right answer on the system.
Oh, I'm sure he did. Right now, Tim is going to be talking about defrag. Tim, does that work with fragmented files, or could you tell us something about it?
Yes, what the defrag does is as you copy files onto your hard disk, it copies them into the first available open space that the disk sees. It doesn't necessarily put all the files together or a whole program of files in the same place or anything like that. It can spread them all over your disk. So what the defrag will do is it will make all the files in line together, and it will speed up the operation of your hard disk, save you a little bit of time. And there are some options that you can do with this, and you can, from the DOS command prompt, you can tell it to put it in alphabetical order or reverse alphabetical order, date and time from the earliest or from the latest one first, smallest by size or largest by size or anything. Okay, let's take a look at the screen here, and we'll take a quick look at how it actually operates. Okay, when you first bring it up, you come up with this handy little menu here. You can pick your drives, A, B, C, and D this machine has, and it first reads all the directories on the drive, and if you think it looks familiar, it probably is, because it comes from Symantec, which is the same people that puts out Norton Utilities. So it's telling me that 98% of the drive C is not fragmented, and it recommends to unfragment the files only instead of doing a full optimization. You can pick different configuration options over here, the optimization method, a full optimization, or the unfragment files only. Now with the full-blown Norton version of this, there are a few more options that you can choose, but to include with DOS 6, they watered it down just a little bit to make it easy for most users. Okay. Anything else?
Well, how about check disk? Would check disk recover the files? Fragment?
When we're talking about a fragmented file, we're not actually talking about a lost cluster or anything like that. The file is there and it's complete. The computer can use it. It just takes a little longer for the computer to read it because a piece of it is over here on the disk and another piece is down someplace else. So it has to go move to this spot and then to that spot. So all the optimization really does is it increases the performance of your machine.
I see. Thank you.
Have you used the, was it Norton version of this?
Yes, I have.
Okay. What are the differences between the two?
Just the number of options that you can choose when you're setting up. Here we have only a full optimization, which will reorder all your files by directories, or unfragment the files, which could leave blank spaces. Your files are still optimized, but it could leave blank spaces in the disk. The Norton version, you can clear unused space, and you can actually tell the optimization program which files to place at the beginning of the disk and what order they want. Here it's just going to read them and unfragment them.
Great.
Okay, great. Now, Rainey will discuss multi-config files.
All right, this is one set of commands that probably a lot of people have wanted added to DOS for quite a while. A lot of people out there with very advanced configuration, config.sys files, have needed methods to load certain device drivers in. I know some people out there, and I'm sure other people know here as well, that you have people who need to have, say, like printer drivers loaded for one application, or they need a scanner driver loaded for another application, or they need a network driver loaded for a third application. With the new multi-config, you can actually have it display a menu for you, and actually you can go through and pick which configuration you want to start with. It only works with the config.sys file. One example that they show through the help is, say you have multiple people accessing the same hard drive for the same system. Fred wants to start a system up a certain way, Mary wants to start the system up another way. You can actually have a menu of Fred and Mary, so when you start the system up, you see it right there on the screen. By them picking it, they can go ahead and set which configuration they want to use. By doing this, Microsoft has added some new commands into the config.sys file. They are include, which allows you to include other selections off the menu. Say you have 3 menu items, basic, medium, and advanced. Well, the medium includes everything from the basic and then some, and the advanced includes items from both the basic and the medium. So you have the include command. Menu color, you can actually set the color of the menu that you want to display. Menu default, you can actually have it select for you which is the default. So if you have a multiple list menu, you can say, okay, pick the third one as the default. Menu item allows you to actually display a menu of all the options. You can actually do sub-menuing with it. So for anybody who's familiar with like auto menu or DOS shell, you can actually go ahead and set up multiple menus downward. There's also an extra command that you can also set the status of the numlock key. There's been a lot of times where people have wanted the numlock key up or people like it down. I've come into a room several times and somebody says, no, you don't have the numlock key this way, and they actually sit there and hit it for you because they're used to it a different way. Through the multiple configuration, you can actually set it the way you feel most comfortable.
Wow, that is terrific.
I know, it just blows my mind.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Has anybody here used the multi-config?
I haven't.
No, I haven't.
No,
had a chance.
I haven't heard anybody who's used it either. One side note is if you use a program like QEMM or 386 to the max, the version 7 of both of those programs, version 7 of QEMM and 386 to the max, will allow you to optimize the multi-config files. So if you're using an older version of either one of those and you want to use the multi-config, it would be wise to spend the $40 to upgrade them.
Great. Now, we're going to be speaking about backup files. Tim, you have anything to say about that?
Yes, always back up your hard drive.
Always.
Always. Okay, the backup file that comes with DOS 6.0 has had a lot of changes compared to the backup file that was in the previous versions. In the previous version, you would back up your files, and there was no compression on it or anything like that. When you went to restore them, you really didn't have much of a choice. You restored the whole backup file or none of it. Now with the new backup that comes with DOS, you have a lot of choices. You can select what files that you want backed up. You can select what files you would like to restore. And this is all done with a very simple menu-driven program. And one note that I should say is that the backup program, you must run it from a hard drive. You can't run it from a floppy. So if you plan to use it, make sure it's installed on your hard drive. The backup program creates catalogs for you on your hard drive and also on the backup floppies, so that every time you make a backup file, it will tell you what files are included in that backup set. Okay, so you have a list of these on your hard drive, and you start up your backup program, and you can scroll through these things and see where or in what set that these files that you're looking for have been backed up in, and it makes it a little easier to choose. You don't have to be writing down on a piece of paper everything that you backed up.
Tim, does it tell you how many disks it's going to take to do the backup so that you'll have those ready in advance, or?
Yes, it does. It will analyze the number of files that you've selected, and it will give an estimated amount of disks that it will take to back it up. And of course, the number of disks depends on what media you have choose to back it up on.
Great, Tim. Hopefully now everybody knows everything they want to know about backup. If anybody has a question, a comment, or a suggestion for PC Voyage, in the past 2 seasons of the show, we've given away prizes to people who have sent in questions, comments, and suggestions. What we have right now is somebody here to give you some more information on that.
You know, this piece of software just doesn't work for me anymore. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write a question into that PC Voyage Show on Continental Cablevision Community Access. I could be eligible to win some of that software that they give away at the end of the year. What was that address again? Oh yeah, it was PC Voyage, P.O. Box 10486, Holyoke, Massachusetts, 01041. Hit any key to continue.
Hi, welcome back. Now that we gave you the address for PC Voyage, please don't hesitate to ask any questions, make any comments, anything concerning the show. Right now, I would like to pull out a question to all of us. Say that someone has DOS 6 or DOS 5.0 and they have the Norton utilities and the PC tools. They have no problem with memory management. Should they upgrade? What do you guys think?
Tim.
Personally, I think if they have all that stuff and they're very happy with the way their machine is running and they don't want to put anything in there that may foul things up, you know, be my guest. Stick with DOS 5.0. There's nothing wrong with it.
I agree. How about you guys?
Well, I will take the opposing view.
You would.
I'll be the counterpoint here. I think that, you know, with every new version of DOS, you do get a lot of new features, whether they are inherent or whether they're more like an active or a passive role. I think you do see a lot of extra benefit from the new version of DOS, even if it's something to some of the bug fixes that were in DOS 5, and believe me, there were some. Andy, we have 3 seconds left.
Well, say you're a new user. Would you buy DOS 6.0?
Yeah, it's a good place to start. I mean, it doesn't matter where you start, just as long as you have some kind of DOS in your system, you know, so on and so
And
forth.
don't forget, if you buy a new machine, it's going to come with 6.0 anyway.
Most
Okay.
likely.
Well, it's time to end our first show.
Our first show.
And
Of the
I'm
season.
Diana McLean, Rainey Lavalette, Tim Hamlet, and Andy Doty. And see you next time.
And on that note,